Okay, good. Hello. Where's the clicker? Ah, here. I have it. Okay. Hello. What? Hola. Okay. Hello. Welcome to LavaCon and to this last session at LavaCon. My name is Stefan Gentz, and that's my Twitter handle. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that with this Twitter handle. And I would like to talk a little bit about attention span and what that means for us as technical communicators and in communication in general. So let me go back a little bit in time. So once upon a time in the year 2000, quite a long time ago, Microsoft conducted a study. And that study was to measure the attention span. And the result of that study was quite surprising. So it took exactly 12 seconds before the transient attention span from the attendees of that study was over. 12 seconds. It feels quite long when you see these numbers counting up. It feels quite long, like a long time, but that's a scenario setting thing here. Let's move a little bit forward in time. So in the year 2001, we got LinkedIn. In 2002, and we got, in 2003, Skype and WordPress, two tools that changed the way we communicate with each other and changed the way we can express our thoughts on blogs and so on. And in 2004, for me it feels like it has been there forever, but actually Facebook is just there since 2004. It's not such a long time. And in 2005, we got YouTube. So my kids raise up with YouTube, and for them it's completely normal to be there. But for me it's still something new, but it feels like it has been there for a long time, and it's replacing TV in some way. And in 2006, something different happened. Twitter came up. And Twitter was reducing the amount of content that we are able to post to 140 characters. And it gets even less if you post a link or a picture and so on. So the amount of content was getting much shorter, and it was getting much more content, and we had to read through it much faster. And in 2007, the iPhone came and changed the way we interact with content by using our fingers and swiping through content, and swiping it away, maybe. And in 2008, Airbnb came, changing the way we travel and changing the way we book places where we want to stay in different countries. And we can do that very quickly and easy today and just pay with PayPal or a credit card. And in 2009, WhatsApp came, changing again the way young people at the beginning started to communicate and creating conversation groups and stuff like that and private groups. And in 2010, Instagram came. I'm using it for black and white photography, but a lot of people are using it also for expressing their thoughts and ideas in pictures or sharing their life. And the iPad came, adding a little bit more space that is available for content, but again with very human interaction with the content with our fingers. In 2011, WeChat came, which is probably today the biggest communication channel in the world for written communication and for recording small snippets of content. And in 2012, I think there was nothing exciting happening. 2013, I think the same. So not much has changed since then in the last years. So nothing really new, cool, like Facebook or YouTube or so came up. But I'm sure the future will bring new things as well. But the thing here is that the way we interact with content, the way we consume content, has dramatically changed. So Microsoft noticed that as well. Oh yeah, that slide first. So the internet has changed the way we interact with content, how we communicate, how we consume content, how we share content, how we travel, how we buy. And it's all about content. We're living in a content society today. And Microsoft conducted that same study again to see if all these changes that we saw in the last years, in the last 10, 15 years, have changed the way we are able to focus on content. So they conducted that study again, and the results were maybe not exactly what we might expect, because something like a attention span is built into our DNA in a way, but it changed. So I would like to make a small experiment with you. Let's play a little bit. It's late in the afternoon. So I prepared a small text, and the following text has exactly 140 characters, the size that fits into a tweet on Twitter. Twitter is now discussing if they want to extend that, and they are trying a pilot with certain accounts where you can post longer content, which is an interesting development. But currently it's still limited to 140 characters. So you get exactly these 12 seconds to try to read and remember this content. Ready? Okay, good. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong slide. So, again, focus, 12 seconds. Have you been able to read and remember that technical content? The source is, by the way, the Microsoft Surface Pro 4 user guide, released in September 2016, so about a year ago. And it's one of the latest Microsoft devices. And you're wondering if that research that they did on attention span actually went into writing the technical documentation for it. And maybe not. So, have you managed to read and remember the content in 12 seconds? Who remembered everything that was in that text? Wow, no one. I had this presentation at the LavaCon in Dublin earlier this year, and someone said, yeah, me, I remember everything. I said, wow, how did you do that? I took a photo. And I said, that's not fair. Okay. So, it was a little bit unfair what I was doing with you, because it was not 12 seconds, it was only 8 seconds. Yeah, that was a little bit mean, but why 8 seconds? I will tell you. But first, so what were these 140 characters to read in 8 seconds about? What did you remember? Maybe we can collect a few points. Sorry? How to set up your display, okay. What was the display size? Does anyone remember that? How much? 12.3, that's the ratio, right? 12.3 as a display ratio. What can you do with that device? Watch HD movies? Something else? Stream things, okay. It has a 12.3-inch display with a 3:2 aspect ratio, and there's high resolution, and you can watch HD movies, browse the web, and use your favorite apps. Do you think that this way of presenting the information is more easy than that written text with this numbered list? Probably, right? So I would say when I show that slide in 8 seconds, you would probably have remembered more details about that content. And that shows, or should give us to think about how we represent information and how we deliver the information to the user. And maybe such a long written text block of 140 characters is not so easy to remember than that same amount of characters as a bulleted list. That's an interesting thing to think about in your daily job in your writing content, I think. So the Microsoft study noticed, and that's why I had it only for 8 seconds, that the transient attention span went down from 12 seconds to 8 seconds in just 10 years. So the rise of all these apps and the amount of this content explosion that we are facing changed the way people are willing to spend time on content. So the time they were willing to spend on content was going down by 4 seconds. That's a lot of amount of time in seconds when you compare 8 to 12 seconds. And in just 10 years. And they wanted to understand why that happens, and they wanted to see the factors that go into that, and one big pattern, or one big factor was the media consumption. So the media consumption was a factor that was driving down the attention span. The more media the people were consuming, the less or the lower their attention span was. And social media usage. So the more active the users were on social media, like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, the lower their attention span was. And if you think about our own usage of social media, like Facebook, you're just scrolling through the timeline, or LinkedIn, or whatever timeline that might be, or feed, and you're just scrolling away the content, and you're scanning that content very quickly and decide if something is interesting for you or not. And we are much less willing to read through content and pay attention to it and make a sound decision if that content is of interest for us or not, or if we like it or not. We just scan it quickly and it goes away. And only if we find something interesting, we pay attention to it. Another interesting factor was the technology adoption rate. So what they called the early adopters or early movers, those people had an even lower attention span than people who are not so fast in adopting new technologies. So the guys who bought every new iPhone generation, they had a lower attention span than the one who had his iPhone from 3 generations ago still in his hands. And there's another interesting factor, and they call that the multi-screening behavior. So people who were sitting in front of their PC or their laptop and had their iPhone and maybe their iPad next to all that, and playing around with all these devices simultaneously, and oh, here I do a tweet, and there I write an email, and there I like some picture or so. The more screens they were using, the lower their attention span was. Because they just have to decide much faster what they find interesting. So 8 seconds. That's the time you as technical communicators have to communicate your message to your audience. So you could say millennials have an attention span shorter than a goldfish. You can tweet that. Use the LavaCon hashtag, please. So this beautiful thing has an attention span of 9 seconds, and we today, especially the younger generation, has an attention span of only 8 seconds. Yeah? That also puts it nicely. Someone recently came to me and said, oh, I don't like that info chart with the brain because the brain is smaller in 2013 than it is in 2000, but actually the size of the brain is still the same, but we are just using it in a different way. And maybe not in the best way always. So, but actually this is nothing really new. In 1978, Herbert Simon, Nobel Prize winner for economics, said, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. So that idea is already there for quite some time, and social media and all these new channels and the internet have changed that even more. Let's talk quickly about this, ADHD. Do you know what that is? Okay, that's the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And there are a couple of, or many studies about ADHD that are interesting in that context as well. So this is a chart that shows the development or the percentage of children in the age of 3 to 17 with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder by gender from 1997 to 2013. So what we can see here is that the cases of children in that age group, the ADHD went up over this time. So more and more cases are coming up where children are treated for ADHD. If it's a treatable disease or not, that's a different discussion, but that's the statistic, and it was an analysis by Child Trends of the National Health Interview Survey data, so it's a reliable data as well. And that's for what the chart that you see there, or the line, that's for girls. Now let's have a look how that looks for boys. Yeah? So boys are even worse. And there was a peak in 2012, and then it seems to be a little bit down. I was not able to get a neurosurvey for that for the last 3-4 years, but probably the general trend that ADHD among children is going up is still there. And the media consumption patterns are even, the kids start earlier to use devices, start earlier to watch YouTube and exchange with their friends and so on. So, but there's also an interesting other fact in that study, and that was many children with ADHD have a good attention span for tasks that they find interesting. So they were not always only not able to focus on something. When they found something interesting, they were able to focus on the content much longer than on content that they found interesting. I mean, that's a general pattern that we have as well, but for ADHD kids, that was especially outstanding there and quite interesting. And that should give us also to think about the content that we create. If we create interesting content, enchanting content for our users. We had that wonderful presentation before me here about how to phrase content to make your audience feel more comfortable and like it. To create enchanting content becomes more and more important, and that changes also the way we create technical content. So what does that mean for marketing and technical communication? We're moving from drops to drips. So we had these big content drops and nightly builds for our technical documentation like 10, 15, 20 years ago. I remember that when I started in technical documentation, we were building a PDF, and that PDF, the printing process took the whole night or so. That was very, very long, and we made these big drops every night. And we're moving to smaller content chunks. And chunks are already a thing of the past, some consultants say, and we need to work with snippets. And from snippets, we're moving to drips. Room. Ray Gallen even came up with that sentence of molecular content. So really just a small chunk of information, a small piece of information, maybe just one sentence. And you could say we're moving from drops to drips. I like that, drops to drips. I was using that in a presentation in Russia and asked the interpreter, have fun in translating that to Russian. So we have no choice. What we need is intelligent information to provide content in new forms. And we need intelligent information to be ready for Information 4.0. What is that? What does that mean? It needs to be XML-based. So if you're still working in a non-XML environment, creating your content in a non-XML environment, you're not ready to provide new ways of delivering information to all kinds of channels, to all kinds of devices. And it needs to be structured content, semantical. It needs to be semantic. It needs to be attributed so that we can give that content additional information, where it should be delivered, to which channel it should be delivered, and so on. It needs to be autarkic or self-containing. And we need to make sure that our content can be consumed by both bots and humans in the future. So in the past, we were writing only content for human beings. And today, we also need to write content for chatbots and all kinds of devices that interact with the user in an automated way. And create more enchanting content, be clear, personal, relevant, and most importantly, quickly get to the point. Remember that 8 seconds when you write content, and try to put the important, my time is up, to put that information quickly into one sentence so that the reader immediately knows what you're talking about. So leverage rich media, video, audio, 3D. Keep in mind that your younger audience and audience of my age and so on, they expect more fun and entertaining ways to consume your content. and start building cohesive, immersive content experiences across all channels, across all devices, and all content delivery channels. Start building tailored and personalized and dynamic content. The technology for that is there. We can use it, we have it, and it's easy to use. And of course, Adobe has the best technology for that. Sorry. Okay. Let me close with this quote from Satya Nadella from Microsoft. The true scarce of commodity is increasingly human attention. That's one important factor to remember. And as my time is up, let me also close with a quote from Adobe CEO Shantanu Narayan. Be passionate and bold. Always keep learning. If you stop doing useful things, you don't learn. Thank you.